So to remove these, I often get a screwdriver between the pipes and just twist it anti-clockwise. There you go. Usually does the trick. Oh, yeah, lots of diesel in there. Still. That's the outer casing draining. There's a little pinhole in it for it. So on the cables, I put one male and one female so I can't get it the wrong way around. And then that's how I disconnect my sender unit quite easy. Hi, quick interception from FutureMax. I'm trying to get this video done because someone on the Facebook group has asked about taking apart these fuel sender units. Now, once you've got it out, which is use a screwdriver or something in between the pipes and twist it anti-clockwise, should be an O-ring here that can start to weep over time. It can flatten. I replaced mine with the bits of parts I got. I don't think the two terminals matter on the top of the sender because I'm pretty sure it just measures the resistance between them. But as I said, I did add spade terminals that were opposite way around, so in case it was side dependent, it didn't really matter. So it's quite easy to work out once you've got it out, which is feed and return. You've got the long pipe there, that is the feed, and then the return comes out of the side there. So if you follow that up, the feed is the back one when you're looking at the, well, it depends what way round on your tank it is. Mine sits that way round against the chassis, and this is the outside of the vehicle. So in my case, the one closest to the chassis, but sometimes the tank's on the other side, I know. So that is the feed because it's in line with that hole. And then that is the return, and this is a breather of some sort. There's two breathers, one that goes to the filler neck and that one. I'm not sure what specifically they do. As I say, I'm no professional. If you want to let me know in the comments what the two different breathers are for. This one has like a one-way valve, not sure which way it goes. Take this off. It's a silly little 6mm nut, I believe. I always just use a pair of pliers. So you just twist that off. So yeah, the reason I'm doing this now is because the camera was dying when I was doing it, and I think it died through the important bits. So I've got to show you the important bits, because all I have actually got is cleaning it up. So you take that little nut off the end, as you can see. And oh yeah, and there's a gauze on here as well. That clips on. There's two different types, as I was saying, and the two gauzes don't fit. My type is this type, where it's, you know, not quite as webbed as the other type, and the other one has like 3 prongs to clip the gauze on. My one just sits in this inner ring. I believe this is the later pre-89 model. No, post-89 model. Anyway, you just pop that off. Simple as that. You can also pop that end off just by pushing it off. The two little notches are different sizes, so you can't get it the wrong way around for feed and return. And if you've taken this out, it is well worth a clean out, because look at all that crud in there and in there. So I cleaned that all out with brake cleaner before installing my new one. Next job, we got 2 sender units, impossible to get hold of. Yeah, I've picked this one out because this one looks like the best one, and then I've got another one spare. I remember messaging Breakers Yards because mine was literally, well, the old one is what's in mine. I had to like JB weld one of the things back on because it was that short. Just pour loads of brake cleaner in there. Get it in there. Get it in there. Because there's 2 different types. You've got one with more of a webbing type, and then more with the square. And the kind of square patterns, I think, because it's on this, is a later version. The one I bought is from the pre-89 models. In 89, they introduced the 310D and the 308D, as opposed to the 307 and 309. And they also, like, you know, added the glove box inside, did various little changes. And if you're a massive geek like me, you'll know. Any information about these vans that I get wrong, do let me know in the comments. And if you want to know, always, if you're watching one of my videos, please do check the comments, because I'm not a professional. I just take these things apart, give it a go. But I have done this a couple of times already now, so. Do you remember what I just showed you was black? There you go, it's white. If you need any parts specifically, get in touch with me. I might be able to send something over, but I don't want to starve all my parts because I do live in my van, and if anything goes wrong, I kind of need it to work. If your fuel gauge isn't working, what it is a fuel level. And I remember doing this, as I say, I think the camera died. But you want to make sure that it does that pretty much on its own.
so that there's no stuck resistance. The next thing you want to check that's really important is how the cable goes round the end of there. Now, it's not the best camera, I'll admit. I should have got my other camera out. But if you can see there, the little wires that are here come up and then they go around the edge of this little plastic thing here, this little plastic square beneath the thread. And that keeps the cables, the little resistance cables, nice and taut. That is thing number one. You want to check it's not snapped as well for number one. You can see the little cables there. I don't know. I'll have to see how well this camera turns out. The next thing you want to check, which is really important as well, and this is going to be really hard to show. So the next thing you want to see is you've got two little prongs in there. Now it's really hard to see again. And they've got like little, they're like triangle shapes, and the point of the triangle wants to be touching the cable. They're opposite sides, and they can sometimes get jumbled up. And if they're the wrong side of the cable, you know, you can move that cable there. If they're the wrong side of the cable, then they won't be measuring the resistance correctly. So you want to make sure the little triangle shape is pushing and pointing and against the point of the triangle. The cable is, yeah, really hard to explain and really hard to see. I'll try and get my other camera out maybe for some B-roll. But yeah, and then they go on to these points here on the underside of the sender unit. One there and one there, which go on to these. Now I found on all of the sender units, this one was okay, but the one with the little plastic thing, I had to use some little pliers and grab the plastic beneath and then crack this off, which I believe is a 10 or an 8mm nut. You'll find it out. But yeah, they are the two cables. You want to make sure they're nice and taut, and as I say, you want to make sure it does that. Well, this one's a little bit sticky at the end. That's just some crud on the shaft here, and that just wants cleaning up, as you can see. That is what it rotates on this inner shaft. These ones are the pickup and return lines, so these, you know, clean them up, yeah, but they are not going to affect the running. It's that center hole where the float runs on, so you want to make sure this inner bar is nice and clean as well, else it won't run nicely. So you want to make sure, as I say, it does that. This one's not too bad, but it could obviously do with a cleanup. To put it back together is really easy. I tend to put this on here first just to at least see what way round it goes. That's the wrong way round. It, as I say, it only goes on one way. You've got the little notches there, and then it just pushes on one way. And then you want to get the longer pipe, because one is slightly longer. That is the feed line, which goes into the hole in the bottom. Line it up like that. And then these little prongs on the outer casing, they go onto the inside of the brass, or whatever material that is. So I had that wrong at first. So you want to make sure that goes onto the inside, if I can show you that. Ooh. Some are bigger and some are smaller. It does, I think, also only go on one way. So just, there we go. So as you can see, those little pins, hopefully you can see, go onto the inside of those, like, there we go, goes like that. I'll do that a couple of times so you can see. And then, once you've got that on the correct way round, you then want to try and battle this on, but you've got to line up the feed, return, and the thread. And it is quite, takes quite a bit of technique, should we say. Bit of wobbling, bit of wiggling, and push it together. And then this end's come out. Bit of wiggling, bit of wobbling. Just takes a bit of fettling. And there we go. And she is back together. And that is how you would check. You could do that, listen, and it's still moving in there, and stick your 6mm nut back on the end there. So there we are. And now I'll show you fitting it back in the tank, because I didn't have much useful footage from that day. I'm very sorry.